I can't look at you the same.
Listen.
I never talked to you like that. I never treated you like that. I never called you a piece of shit.
You don't understand why I feel this way.
Why?
Can you not hear that? You all have front row seats to this show. Did you?
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of New York, Season 14, Episodes 10 and 11. Yes, it's another double recap. And before we get started, let me just say that I have so many thoughts, especially about the whole Ubah versus Erin argument. And I'm gonna let you know something right now. I have quite a few unpopular opinions. I see everybody on Twitter going up for Ubah, but I rewatched both episodes and I'm just like, Ubah's the one who's actually in the wrong, and I'll talk about that more later. The same way that we don't condone violence or putting our hands on people, I don't like the fact that Ubah snatched those sunglasses off of Erin's face like that. Whether or not you like Erin or not, you cannot sit up here and act like what Ubah did was right. I think that Ubah is doing the most for some camera time because if we're being honest, we haven't gotten that much of a story from Ubah this entire season. And I also want to quickly get on Sai because Sai, while this trip might be luxurious, it's boring. The way you talk about everybody else and their events, you were sitting up there clowning Erin's anniversary party. But Miss Mamas, what have you guys really done on this trip? I'll wait. But y'all, without further ado, let's just jump right on into it because you guys already know that we don't have a minute to spare. So we open up episode 10 with it being the next morning. Remember that Brynn didn't go to dinner with them, so she's talking to Erin and she's asking Erin, how was last night's dinner? So Erin's like, girl, we missed you last night, but let me tell you what happened. Remember how Jessel was telling us about her family and her life story the other night? Well, she went on to say that she grew up with nothing. And it's almost like she hears your story and Sai's story, and she also wants to act like she had a hard life growing up as well when she didn't. So now Erin goes on this rant about how it's so annoying that Jessel just won't come clean and admit that her parents financially helped her. She's like, girl, it's okay. My parents helped me. I'm not ashamed about it. It is what it is. Now, let's just stop right here. First of all, Erin, why are you so pressed about Jessel's upbringing? I don't understand why you're assuming that Jessel's life was one way when you don't know what somebody's life was like. So for you to assume that Jessel's lying and she's wanting to fit in, saying that she had it rough, maybe Jessel did have it rough. I was getting really pissed off with all of them throughout this episode, the way they kept dogpiling on Jessel. If we're really being honest, nobody owes you their life story in the first place. Let's start there. And I'm so sick and tired of all these women trying to trauma bond in every episode. You guys can never have a normal conversation. Why does it always have to be centered around trauma and loss and grief and financial hardship and, who had it the worst? It almost feels like you guys are trying to one-up each other on who had it the worst. I'm just not a big believer in talking about such heavy topics, especially not on a vacation. So now Erin is trying to debunk Jessel's story, and she's like, on one hand, Jessel was telling us that her parents didn't give her a dime, but at the same time, they paid for her college. And I said, again, why do you care so much? So her parents paid for college, but they didn't give her any spending money while she was in college. If that's her story, that's her story. Why are you so hell-bent on trying to poke holes in it? I was getting so irritated. Here's where I really got angry, because we see the flashback of the night before at dinner, and Sai went off on Jessel. She's like, girl, I didn't have parents to depend on. I didn't have anybody to help me. I had $0 in my bank account. Do you know what that feels like? My account was overdrawn by negative $450. Do you know what that feels like? I wish I had $20 in my account. And the way she was going off on Jessel, She was acting like it was Jessel's fault for what she had been through in her life. And I would have said, if I were Jessel, Sai, I'm sorry to hear that, but what you won't do is start yelling at me and trying to act like I'm the cause of all the pain and trauma that she went through growing up. Let's also talk about how struggle and hardship is relative. If Jessel feels like what she went through was a hardship, then she's perfectly fine to feel that way. Everybody's level of struggle and pain isn't the same. What somebody considers a struggle might be seen as a cakewalk to somebody else. What's seen as a cakewalk to somebody else might be a struggle and a hardship to somebody else. So for you to act like Jessel's struggle and pain isn't on the same level as yours, then it doesn't mean anything? I can't stand that. Sai, how dare you try to negate what Jessel's went through because it wasn't as bad as what you went through. And that's another reason why I avoid those type of conversations about let's compare struggles, because the minute somebody feels like your life was easier or what you went through wasn't that bad, now they want to berate you and try to belittle your experiences. And I don't have time. Because like I said, you're not going to try to shame me because you feel like my experiences weren't as bad as yours. Y'all, stay away from those types of conversations. I just feel like, what's the point of sitting around all the time talking about what you went through? If it's not a therapist or a counselor, why are you talking about this with other people? And if we're being honest, when it comes to Jessel, Jessel can't win, because if Jessel does say, you know what, I did grow up rich, I grew up privileged, they're going to get on her for that. So it's like she's in a lose-lose situation. Whatever she says, they're going to find fault with it. So for today's activity, Sai got them a yacht. So they're on the yacht, they're having a good time, and now we see Erin making a joke about how she wants to throw somebody overboard. And then she goes on to say that she wants to throw Ubah overboard since Ubah threw her into the pool the night before. Now, one thing about it, do not ever throw me into a pool. I don't think those kind of pranks are funny. I think that is very unsafe. You hear all those horror stories. I saw a video on TikTok recently where a woman is now paralyzed because her friends threw her into the pool and she hit her head, a hot mess. This woman's life has been completely altered because of what her friends did. I don't think those types of pranks are funny. Do not throw anybody into a pool. I know how to swim. I swim well. But again, if I want to get into a pool, I'll do that on my own time. Don't push me in one. And I think that people are a bit too cavalier about that. But if I were Erin, I would have been pissed off. Like, girl, don't throw me into a pool. So right there, I just feel like, Ubah, you really can't get mad because you shouldn't have thrown her into the pool. And when you prank somebody first, you don't get to dictate how they get to prank you back. But again, let me not jump ahead. And now we see Brynn fake flirting with Jenna. She takes Jenna's hand and starts licking her fingers. And they're all just like, okay, like, all right, Brynn, like, go ahead. And you guys know how I feel about Brynn. I think that Brynn has to constantly be the center of attention. And when things are not about her, she will make it about her. I'm all for fun. I'm all for a cute flirtation. But when it comes off as desperate and thirsty, like you're trying way too hard, that's when it falls flat for me. Now, when the captain started showing them the sea turtles and Jenna had on her scuba suit and you have Sai saying, take off the suit, girl, like, come on. And I'm like, Sai, Jenna has already explained to you about her skin condition. So why even make a comment like that about take off the scuba gear? It's like Sai is determined to be more and more obnoxious as the episodes go on. So now we see Jessel, Brynn, and Ubah talking, and Jessel's like, Brynn, we missed you last night at dinner, and I wish you had been there because Sai and Erin ganged up on me. They were pretty much attacking me, and they think that I have this rich, wealthy uncle, and I don't. And they think that I'm lying about my background, and I'm not. They want me to come out and say that I'm this wealthy Indian princess, and that's not what it is. And I agreed with Ubah when Ubah said, who are you to question somebody's background? And like I said, Jessel does not owe anybody an explanation about her upbringing. It's nobody's business. And then for her to share, and now you guys want to question her and talk about, no, girl, you actually were rich and we know it and stop lying. Again, how dare you? And the way I was so pissed when they were all laying out in the sun and you have Sai going after Jessel and she's like, Jessel, Brynn just told me that you were saying that me and Erin attacked you last night. That's not true. Who the F are you? It's never a simple answer with you. The math isn't mathing. And I just said, Sai, you would have been cursed out right there. Because first of all, how dare you question me and say that I'm lying about my upbringing? I'm not doing this. I don't owe you an explanation. Second of all, why do you care so much? Why are you so pressed? And you definitely were coming after her at that dinner. So you want to act like you were just so nice and sweet? You weren't. You were being an asshole. So now Erin jumps in and she's like, but Jessel, you're trying to compare your life to Sai and Brynn's and you just can't compare it. And I said, Erin, who said she's trying to compare her life? What are you talking about? And I loved when Jessel said, I'm not comparing my life to anybody's. I'm just telling you how I grew up. Now here's where I lost it. When Erin went on to say, you're always saying that your life was so hard, but you had a perfectly nice life. And when Jessel checked her and she said, but how do you know that, Erin? How do you know that I had a nice life? And one thing that my parents always drilled into all of us, do not assume anything. You don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Just because somebody looks like they have a great life, you don't know what's going on when they get home. Everybody has parts in their lives where it was complicated. On one hand, it looked like it was perfect, but it really wasn't perfect. Case in point, for all my subscribers who have been following me since 2020, 2021, you guys had no idea that my dad was sick and he had cancer. And for 7 months, I was just smiling. I never mentioned it one time. You guys didn't find out any of that until he passed away. Nobody would have known that I was dealing with that. And even family members and friends, people were shocked because we didn't say anything. We just made it look good. And a lot of people had no idea. So I use that example to say that just because somebody makes it look good and they don't share their problems, how foolish of you to assume that they've never dealt with anything, they've never had a hard period in their life. That's a very immature mindset. And Erin, how ignorant of you to say, well, you had a perfectly fine life. You don't know what she went through. Maybe she was bullied as a kid. Maybe she went through financial hardship as a young girl. You don't know. I loved how Jessel snapped. She was like, did you live my life? Are you me? How can you tell me that my life was perfectly fine? So now Erin says, but your life was fine. You had a rich uncle. So Jessel's like, I never said that he was rich. Like, what are you talking about? And you see how people assume? Because I don't remember Jessel saying that her uncle was so rich. She said that he was a photographer or an artist. He might have been doing well, but I never heard her say that he was incredibly rich. And it's so funny how people want to attach these narratives and they want to paint this picture of you when they really have no idea. And Jessel handled this extremely well, in my opinion, because I probably would have snapped. And Erin, once again, you were out of order when you were like, well, was your life hard then? And I'm happy that Jessel did not give you a straight answer. Because like I said, it's nobody's business. I wouldn't have answered Erin either. Well, girl, I don't know. You tell me, was my life hard? Was it easy? I guess you'll find out never. And Sai, I hope that you get read down at this reunion because I want to ask again, who in the entire hell are you screaming at? Because you lost your mind when you started talking about your story about your parents. That's not you. That's not your life. I said, how dare you? How dare you tell her that she can't tell her story? I was just too done. I said, season 15, I don't want them to bring Sai back. Erin can also go because I am sick of the both of them. They are so obnoxious. Y'all haven't been around the right one yet because I can assure you, y'all would have been crying playing around with me like that because I wish somebody would try to force me to tell them my upbringing and what I've been through and this, that, and the third, and then tell me that I'm not sharing enough or I'm lying. We would have an issue right there. It's just so disappointing because I really thought that I was going to like Sai. I just knew that Sai was going to be a fan favorite. And the fact that it's been the complete opposite. And I wasn't feeling when Brynn jumped in talking about, but your parents' story isn't your story though. I just said, Brynn, please. And Ubah was the only one making sense. She was like, the fact that these women are picking on Jessel and they don't see that Jessel's parents' story is also her story. It's embarrassing and it's just sad. My whole thing is, one, whether Jessel grew up rich, poor, in the middle, why do y'all care so much? And second of all, where do you get off telling somebody that they had an easy life if they're telling you that that wasn't the case? You just met this woman, don't know her from a can of paint, you don't know her story, don't know what she's been through, but now you want to assume that she's had it easy? You're out of line for that. So now we jump to the next scene. They're out at dinner, and of course the conversation starts off with Brynn giving them sex tips. She's giving them advice on how to give a good BJ. And I said one thing about Brynn, she's gonna always take it to the extreme, because at one point she starts deep throating the straw and the other diners were looking at her like, what's going on? And I just said, see, that's what I'm talking about. I'm all for having fun. When I tell y'all I am nobody's prude in the least bit, but there's a time and place for everything. And it just reeks of, I need attention. And it's no shade, sis, but in my observations, I've noticed that the folks who talk the most about sex and how they just doing this, that, and the third, they usually are in some sort of dry spell. It's been a while. And they're talking about what they hope to do when they get their next man. Again, it's no shade. So now they decide to go around the table and tell embarrassing stories about themselves. Brynn's story was that when she first started her period, she put the tampon in the wrong way. I think she said that she put it in her butt. And I said, well, that's to be expected. We all have embarrassing period stories, especially when we were in our preteens, teen years. So I said, girl, join the club. I felt like Brynn and Erin gave the tamest embarrassing stories in my opinion. Because I said, now, Brynn, I know you have better stories than that. Jessel had a good story. She says that when she was in Cancun for spring break, she was at this club and there was a grotto in the middle of the club. She took off her dress and she was in her swimsuit. And she says that at one point, she tried to get her friend's attention. So as she stepped out of the grotto, she slipped and fell and her top came off. So she was topless in the middle of the club. So Jenna says that her story is similar to Jessel. She says that she was at O Bar in the city, and as she was walking down the steps, she slipped and fell and she slammed into the wall. And when she told the story, I was getting secondhand embarrassment just listening to that because I would have been so mortified. Sai says that back in high school, she used to run track, and her embarrassing story is when she was at a track meet, she had to use the bathroom and not just pee, she had to do some other stuff. But she says that as she was running, she felt it coming down and she went number 2 on herself at the track meet in front of everybody. I was like, damn, I know she must have felt horrible for like the next few weeks. And I wonder, did anybody make fun of her for that in school? I felt so bad just hearing that. And it was like, Erin, did you even try? That boring story that you told about one time you guys were flying and your kids embarrassed you on the plane. I was like, girl, what? So now they get back to the villa, and as they're all getting out the car, the driver's calling out because somebody's lost their phone. We find out that it's Ubah's phone that was left in the car, and now we cut to Erin and Ubah by the pool, and they're joking around because Erin's like, I still need to get you back since you pranked me the night before. So Erin's trying to push Ubah in the pool. Of course, Ubah's scared. And now all of a sudden, Sai runs out and she pushes Ubah in the pool. So Erin's like, well, that doesn't count because Sai was the one who pushed you in the pool, not me. I'm still gonna get you back. And then we see Erin say that she still has Ubah's phone. and she's not going to tell her. Now, a quick side note. I didn't like the fact that Sai jumped in and pushed Ubah in the pool either. Like I stated earlier on, somebody could get seriously hurt. There is too much that could go wrong by being pushed in a pool when you're not expecting it. I think that those types of jokes just aren't funny. And also, Sai, this prank war is between Erin and Ubah, so why did you feel the need to get in the middle and push Ubah in the pool? The way this whole entire prank turned into World War III, because it's the next morning now. Ubah woke up pissed. She's like, I found out that Erin had my phone the entire time. So Ubah's venting to Sai about how she calls her family every night to let them know that she's safe. So Sai says in her confessional that she heard Ubah and Jessel searching around the villa to find Ubah's phone. And it was at this point where she told Jessel to go upstairs to Erin's room because she knew that Erin had it. So now Sai comes clean and she's like, yeah, Ubah, I already knew that Erin had your phone the whole time. She was just pranking you back. So now you have Ubah upset and she's like, I'm pissed off at Sai and Erin because Sai, you knew the whole time. Now I said, Ubah, it was a prank. Nobody knew that you would be this upset. Obviously, had Sai known that you were going to be this angry, she probably would have told Erin to give you back your phone immediately. So Ubah goes on to say that your phone is serious business. You have your banking information, your passwords, all of your information's on there, and anybody would be panicked if they thought they lost their phone. And Ubah's not lying. We all know how it goes. That slight panic, that slight fear when we think that we left our phone somewhere. It's definitely real. And being a content creator, I would definitely be upset or I'd be panicked if I thought that I lost my phone, for sure. I'm not going to sit here and try to diminish Ubah's feelings, but Ubah, next time you need to be careful and think twice before you decide to prank somebody. That's my whole thing about pranks in general. Stuff goes way too far, and I notice that when it comes to pranks, a lot of people can dish it, but they can't take it. If you didn't want anybody to prank you like this, Ubah, you shouldn't have thrown Erin in the pool. I'm just saying. So now Sai says that while she understands Ubah being annoyed or upset, she does feel like Ubah's dwelling on it. So of course we see Sai being the bearer of bad news. She's like, Erin, Ubah is pissed at you. So Erin's surprised. She's like, why? I gave it right back. Now, Erin, let's not lie. Don't act like you only had it for like a minute or two. So take responsibility, sis. You had it for quite some time. Let's take some ownership. So we see Ubah talking to Jessel. She's like, I'm really pissed off right now. I check in with my family every morning and every night. I'm not married. I'm alone in this world. I travel all the time for work. I have my older sisters who are worried about me. Like, I'm really pissed. So here's where things go from bad to worse. At this point, Brynn, Sai, and Erin are at the kitchen, and as they're eating their breakfast, Ubah comes down and she ignores all of them.
What are you mad at me? What'd I do? Oh my God. Do it look?
So Brynn's like, well, damn, like she's mad at us. Like, I'm scared. So now you have Erin talking about it just feels really mean and really shitty. Now, Erin, I gotta check you. You've gotta stop being so overly sensitive about everything. If Ubah is upset, let her be upset. Stop taking on everybody's feelings 24/7. I'm sure it has to be exhausting. My attitude would have been, she pranked me, I pranked her back. I might have went a bit too far. She's angry at me. Let her sit in her anger, and when she's ready to talk to me, she'll talk to me. Somebody ignoring me doesn't faze me because I can ignore right back. So I would have sat there and ate my food and let Ubah just be mad. But I'm not going to sit up there whining, oh my gosh, she's mad at me, she's ignoring me. Like, no, that wouldn't have happened. So now you have Jessel at the table. She's defending how Ubah feels. And she's like, if the shoe were on the other foot, Erin, you'd be pissed too. And now you have Brynn jumping down Jessel's throat. And she's like, what are you? Are you Ubah's lawyer? Excuse me? And I just said, y'all all need to just shut up. Everybody's being so annoying. Just sit there and have a good time. This trip has already been boring, and now you guys are going to spend the last day fighting? Like, nobody wants to hear this. And this is why I will always stand 10 toes down in not partaking in pranks. Things always go left. I have seen it with my own 2 eyes. People fall out over pranks. People fight over pranks. It just doesn't work. It's not worth it. It's very rare that both parties are good-natured and have that kind of sense of humor where they're going to be okay when they get pranked back. At the end of the day, I really do feel like this could have all been avoided had Ubah not thrown Erin into the pool in the first place. Because now look at this. Erin withheld her phone for a few hours, and now the whole day is going to be ruined because Ubah's pissed. So as they're about to leave the villa to go to the rum tasting, you have Erin pouting, and she's like, it was supposed to be a stupid little prank. I can't believe it's blown up into this. And then she goes on to say that it's not fair that Ubah's about to ruin the last day of the trip. Now, again, you can't control how anybody else acts, but you can control how you act. I refuse to give anybody that kind of power. I'm not going to sit up there and allow one person to ruin my time on a vacation. It's not happening. If you want to sit up there and be mad and be angry and curse me out in your head, that's fine. Do that over there. But you're not going to be stopping any show over here because I'm still going to have a good time. Let her be angry. Okay, she's angry, and what? Did the world stop? Like, you know, Erin likes to act like she's such a badass, but she's also very sensitive. The minute somebody does one thing to her, she's crying and she just can't believe it. I've noticed that about her. Now, Erin, your word choice felt a bit Karen-esque when you went on to say the fact that Ubah's ignoring you, it's intimidating, and you feel scared. I said, now, why do you feel scared if she's ignoring you? Wouldn't you be scared if she was in your face? She's not talking to you, so again, why do you feel scared? Also, 2 things can be true at the same time. While it might feel like Ubah is going a bit overboard, as long as she's not doing anything to you, you shouldn't be talking about you feel scared and intimidated. Again, if Ubah's upset, let her be upset and stop focusing on her being angry at you. But stop all this, oh my gosh, I'm just so scared, I'm so intimidated, and she's singling me out. Like, stop dwelling on it. And a real New Yorker, because you say in every episode, but now you're crumbling because Ubah's upset with you? You should be like, okay girl, you're upset, you'll get over it, we'll talk when we get back to New York. That's what it should be. That's what a real New Yorker would do. Now, mind you, they were waiting for Jenna to come downstairs. And so at this point, Erin goes upstairs to get a sweater or a jacket. So now Jenna comes down and she's like, are we ready? Where is Erin? And Ubah says, oh, Erin was just here, but she went upstairs to go get a jacket. So when Ubah said that, Erin was coming downstairs and she's like, I hear her saying my name. Please stop talking about me. Please get my name out of your mouth. So now Ubah's like, I wasn't talking about you. I was explaining where you were to Jenna. That's it, that's all. So now Erin says, well, I don't care what you were talking about, but please don't say my name. Now I said, Erin, I understand that you're mad at Ubah, but that part wasn't needed. You know good and damn well Ubah wasn't talking badly about you. She was just explaining to Jenna where you were. So you were definitely doing the most, and it was clear that she wanted to have some get back, trying to get really nasty with Ubah when you said that. Because again, that was uncalled for. She didn't say anything bad about you, and you know it. And here's where Ubah messes up, because at this point, Ubah gets in Erin's face like this, and now you see Ubah rip the sunglasses off of Erin's face, and that's where we see a to be continued, and we open up episode 11 with everybody jumping in, trying to break Erin and Ubah up, because they don't want it to turn into a full-blown fight. So Ubah's like, well, I'm going to hold your sunglasses for 45 minutes the same way that you held my phone. So Erin's crying at this point, and she's like, you don't scream in my face. You don't talk to me like I'm a child. And she's just so livid. Now, Ubah, you messed up. I'm not going to sit up here and act like because Erin is annoying and she has her Karen ways, that what you did wasn't wrong, because it was. The same way that I would call anybody else out on any other franchise, I gotta call you out. I don't care if it's a black woman or a white woman fighting. I don't care if it's two black women fighting, two white women fighting, two Hispanic women fighting. That's unacceptable. You don't get in her face like that. You were dead ass wrong, and you know who to try. Because I can assure you, Ubah, that had you been on another franchise, you would not be doing that. You're allowed to be mad. You're allowed to feel how you feel about Erin taking your phone, but you don't have the right to get in her face and snatch those sunglasses out of her face like that. That wasn't right. And again, I have to be fair. So Erin goes on to say that she and Ubah have been friends for quite some time. It's their first conflict, and it's the worst conflict that she's ever had in her entire life. And I said, now, Erin, you've been going after Jessel, talking about how Jessel has led such a charmed life, but now we hear that this is your worst conflict ever with anybody. I said, yeah, girl, I think you're the one with the extremely cushy and privileged and easy life. So at this point, they're on their way to the rum tour, and they're all in separate cars. So we see Ubah, Jessel, and Brynn driving together, and Jenna, Sai, and Erin are in the other car. So at one point, we see Jenna walk over, and she's like, hey, Ubah, can you please just give her back her sunglasses? And Ubah says, no, I'm keeping them for 45 minutes, the same way that she held my phone. So Jenna's upset to hear this. She's like, this is so incredibly petty and just so stupid. It feels so high school. I will not be surprised if Jenna ends up not coming back, because I feel like this whole entire experience was way too much for her. She's not used to all this cattiness and these sort of arguments and all the shade that takes place and being ambushed. I would not be surprised if Jenna says, shout out to everybody, I have fun.
Oh! Shout out to everybody, I have fun.
I gotta be good.
So as they're driving to the bar, we see Brynn telling Ubah that while she has a valid point, when she starts yelling and getting in people's faces, she loses points. And Brynn is right. You automatically lose when you deliver a message like that. It is one thing to have a disagreement, but when you get in somebody's face, when it starts getting physical, that's when you've lost. Because if you can't have a simple argument, if it can't just stay with us having words with each other, and you feel the need to touch me or take my sunglasses off or rip my chain off of my neck, we've got a problem. And Ubah, there's a way to do everything. You had every right to feel how you felt. You had every right to be upset, but you don't have the right to get in somebody's personal space like that. You just don't. And I noticed that Ubah's very immature and she lacks accountability because she kept making excuses all throughout this episode for her bad behavior. And she's like, well, Brynn, when you're real, you just can't think. And I'm like, girl, what are you talking about? You were wrong. Period, point blank. Just own it. Say, you know what? You're right. I went a bit overboard. I shouldn't have done that. Now, Brynn, you made a great point, but I would have just kept it quiet once I saw that Ubah was not receptive to hearing what you had to say. Because when you went on to say that Ubah hits below the belt, and Ubah was like, girl, don't start, because you and Erin go at it all the time. She's sitting up there calling you a slut. She uses you and abuses you, but you sit up there and take it. You kiss and make up, like not too much. I said, Miss Mamas, I would have sat this one out. But Ubah, you were adding some extra sauce to the story, because I remember Erin being upset about Brynn flirting with Abe, but I don't remember hearing Erin calling Brynn a slut. So now the ladies arrive to the bar and they're having their rum tour. The owner of the bar is giving them all these shots and all these drinks. That rum punch looks so good. So at one point we see Sai ask to bartend, And we learned that for 10 years, Sai was a bartender in all the hot places in the city. And she says that those years were some of the best years of her life. Now, they're all having a good time. Even Erin was happy to be there. While they're in the middle of drinking, Ubah's alarm goes off. And of course, it's the alarm to give Erin back her sunglasses. So Erin's annoyed. And she's like, before those sunglasses touch me, they need to touch somebody else. Like, I don't want them coming directly from her. So Jenna gives Erin the sunglasses, and Erin's being sarcastic. She's like, oh, Jenna, you found my sunglasses? Why, thank you. So, of course, it turns into another blowout. You have Erin saying, Ubah, you were so mad at me that instead of coming to me and talking to me like a normal friend, you're this upset? So you have Ubah snapping right back at Erin. She's like, don't tell me what to do. I'm not your kid. And I was thinking, Ubah, you're wrong. Miss Mamas, you're wrong. You had no right to snatch those sunglasses off of her face like that. There's no other way to slice it. So now you have them going back and forth. Then Brynn jumps in and she's like, honestly, you guys both effed up. So now you have Ubah going off yet again. And she's telling Brynn all the things that Erin has said about her. She's sitting up there calling you a social climber. And Erin is shocked that Ubah is running her mouth like this. And this is why you need to watch what you say to people. Because the minute people get mad at you, they're putting everything out on Front Street. Ubah, you know that was petty of you to reveal to Brynn what Erin was saying about her. I said, girl, a mess. But Erin, I don't have too much sympathy for you because the way you sat up there and lied on Jenna a few episodes ago about the whole first class situation, I said, girl, again, I'm not too upset because you're getting it back. Now you see how it feels. So Brynn is pissed off. She's like, you don't have to climb when you're already on top. So Erin's like, girl, you and I already resolved this. I had told you how I felt after you ditched me to go to Casa Cipriani. Like, let's not rehash an old issue that we've already resolved. Now, Brynn, while that might be hurtful to hear, it's low-key the truth. And I called you out about being a social climber earlier on. I clocked it by the first episode. And it was really apparent when you guys were in the Hamptons, when you made that slick comment about how Erin's house is in Sag Harbor versus it being in Southampton. Baby, I clocked your tea a long time ago, along with everybody else. So don't be too offended at being called a social climber, because it's true. You do like status. You do want to be with who you feel is the most powerful, the richest. Like, girl, let's call a spade a spade. So at this point, Erin's fed up. She leaves the bar. Jenna follows behind her. And Jenna's like, I just don't like this. I don't like all this screaming at someone else's establishment. It feels so icky and gross to me. And I just said, now, Jenna, I love you to death. But Miss Mamas, have you watched a Real Housewives episode before? Because don't act brand new, sis. This is what happens. If you wanted peace, you came on the wrong show. So we flip back to everybody else at the bar, and Sai's like, look, Ubah, I get that you're mad, but you can't lash out at people and then call them names. So Ubah says that she's trying to put herself on control cruise, and now Sai corrects her. She's like, you mean cruise control? So here's my thing, right? Sai, I understand that you want to give Ubah some advice, but you also need to take your own advice, because how comical of you to say that you can't lash out at people when just the day before you lashed out at Jessel about Jessel's story about her upbringing. How dare you? You're out of line too, because your attitude is nasty. You're very dismissive. So now you want to try to chastise Ubah? Like, girl, look in the mirror. And that was messed up for Ubah to talk about Erin's glasses are fake. They're from Canal Street.
Ladies, may we get a word?
Hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around. With your broke ass.
And now we see Erin and Jenna go back to the bar. Erin's still upset. She's not sitting by any of them. And then we see the rest of the women go out and do limbo. And it was so funny because Jenna was like, did you hear that woman at the bar? She asked me if Brynn was my daughter. She was like, I might be old, but I'm not that old. So now they all leave to go out and get some lunch. They sit down at the restaurant, and of course, Ubah's being dramatic. She's pretty much dragging it at this point. She's like, oh my gosh, I need a whole bottle of tequila. They were like, girl, you don't even drink. So now Sai's like, I just wish that we could all resolve this and just have some fun. It's our last day. So Ubah says, well, when people can stop being abusive and liars, then we can resolve things. She goes on to call Erin a liar. And I said, now hold on for a minute, right? Because you and Erin were good friends for quite some time, correct, Ubah? So all of a sudden now she's a liar? If you felt like she was truly a liar, then why were you friends with her all that time? I understand that you're mad at her, but don't lie on her. Again, I felt like Ubah was being a bit immature. So now you have Jessel getting worked up, and she's like, well, she did say that I said that my uncle was incredibly rich, and I never said that. And it seems to me that Erin is the driving force between all the conflict. And then we hear Ubah saying that she's not taking one thing back. I said, girl, okay. Like, we get it, but we don't want to hear about this anymore. I'm over it. I know everybody else is tired. It's your last day. Just shut up. So at this point, the lunch gets really awkward because Erin and Ubah go at it yet again. Sai gets up to go to the bathroom, and she's like, guys, I'm going to the restroom. Don't fight. And what did they do? They fight. So Ubah starts it off by making this really weird analogy. I think she said something like, Americans are so funny because somebody can put something in their ass and they'll be like, oh my gosh, stop doing that. And I was like, girl, what's this analogy? Like, what are you talking about? I didn't get what she was trying to say. If you guys understood what she was saying, please let me know down in the comments, but I was lost. So Erin is annoyed. She's like, you just keep going and going and going. Like, you just won't stop. And at this point, Erin decides to leave. She's like, I'm going back to the villa. I got an Uber. I'll see y'all later. And if I'm being honest, I probably would have joined Erin back at the villa. I would have said, you know what? I'll have the chef prepare me something nice for lunch, and I can just sit and look at the view and have some peace and quiet. Because I don't want to have my lunch dominated by Ubah and this dumb argument. Nobody wants to hear this. So now Jenna makes a point of how Ubah is incredibly sweet, but she also has that other side to her, and she noticed it a few months ago when she had invited Ubah to come to her home, and she forgot to tell her that the cameras were going to be there. And so we see a clip of Ubah getting mad, and she's like, I wish you would have told me so I could be hair and makeup ready. Like, next time, don't invite me and not tell me that the cameras are here. And I'm not even gonna hold you. I get it. Being on camera, I'm not getting on here looking any old way. So if I were Ubah, yeah, I would have felt some type of way like, yeah, girl, you're cool and all, but it feels like a setup because you got me here with minimal makeup. My hair's not done the way that I want it to be done. Listen, one thing about it, I am very vain, and I would be pissed off too. When I leave this house or when I'm in front of this camera, best believe I'm coming on here looking right, okay? Y'all know me. A recap will be late before I get on here looking any type of way. So now Ubah goes on to say that she hopes that Erin's Uber breaks down, and they're all like, stop it, Ubah, you don't mean that. So now Brynn jumps in and she says, now look, Ubah, I never come at you, I never yell at you. And now Ubah interrupts and she's like, because you're half black and they think that you have that black thing. So Brynn's like, I don't think it's that. And now Ubah goes on to say that she hates the whole angry black woman narrative and how we deserve to be angry. And I said, now Ubah, I'm with you, but what we won't do is try to make this a black thing. This is not that. And I have to just call a spade a spade. Don't use the whole angry black woman trope to defend you getting in that woman's face and taking those sunglasses off of her face like that. What you did wasn't cool. Yes, I agree that there is this stereotype that black women are angry, and our anger for some reason is highly talked about, and people act like we don't have a right to be angry like every other woman, but this ain't that. And I'm not going to sit up here and let you do that, because you're pulling that out of your ass and you know it. I know I might get some pushback here. That's fine. It's my opinion. But I felt like, Ubah, you know that you're wrong. Period. The end. Don't try to conflate issues that have nothing to do with what happened. And I have to agree with Sai when Sai said, yes, I understand Ubah's point about the angry black woman trope, but again, this isn't that. This does not tie in to what happened. And she was right. So everybody's getting exhausted to still keep talking about the same thing. And now Sai's like, so what about those Yankees? So now Brynn makes a joke, and while she makes the joke, she's touching her boobs, and Sai's like, girl, you will find any excuse to touch your boobs and show them to us. And now Brynn talks about her upbringing. She learned at a young age what to do to get attention and how attention is power. And she's absolutely correct. Attention is power. And we see that Brynn is definitely addicted to that power, and she will do anything to have the attention on her at all times. So now Brynn goes on to tell us more about her upbringing, how she actually wanted to be a doctor. She was studying pre-med in college, and her grandma told her, you don't become a doctor, you marry a doctor. And she was like, when she was taking all these classes, nobody cared, but the minute she was dating a Turkish billionaire, that's when everybody in her family was proud of her. So Brynn goes on to say that she ended up failing one of the core classes as a pre-med student, and so she ended up pivoting into PR, and she gets paid very well. And may I just point something out? I would love to see some scenes with Brynn in her apartment hosting a nice dinner party, or I would like to see her with some clients. Like, that would be really fun to watch. I feel like we only see Brynn when she's out and about, and that's cool and all, but I feel like they've shown everybody else at their jobs and their apartments, and we've yet to see Brynn in her element when she's working or at her apartment. But Brynn goes on to say that her grandmother had a massive influence on her. Her grandma always wanted her to travel and see the world. She never wanted her to stay in Indiana, and she thanks her for that. So we jump to Erin at the villa. She's by herself eating some lunch, and she calls her dad to talk to him, and she's like, Dad, me and Ubah got into this blowout fight, and it's all because I had pranked her back. I only had her phone for like 2 minutes. And I said, now, Erin, if you're going to tell the story, tell it right. You had the phone longer than 2 minutes. I'm all for telling your parents what happened, venting, getting things off your chest, but at least be truthful. So Erin goes on to say how Ubah was screaming at her and she stood over her, and how she can't believe this because Ubah was one of her good friends. So she's like, I just don't know what to do. How would you deal with this, Dad? And her dad's like, look, have a conversation with her. Tell her I respect you, you respect me, and just see what she has to say. And now Erin shares in her confessional that with Ubah being so mean to her, it's bringing her back to when she was in 7th grade. We learned that Erin was bullied a lot in 7th grade, and how this one boy used to call her long jaw Silver because she had a really long jaw. I was like, well, damn. And you could tell that Erin was still hurt by that because She looked like she was about to cry just retelling that story. But Erin, if it makes you feel better, I feel like everybody's middle school experience sucked. So girl, you are not alone. Now we flip back to everybody else at lunch, and they get on the topic about boarding school. I think Sai goes on to ask Brynn if she would consider sending her future kids to boarding school. And now you have Ubah jumping in, and she's like, no, I would never. Boarding school, that's for parents who don't want to parent. Like, absolutely not. Boarding school is awful. And I just said, Ubah, can you shut up? To make such a broad statement, you sound ignorant. Because I know plenty of people who went to boarding school and they went for a multitude of reasons. A lot of people I know, they really wanted to better their chances of going to an Ivy League school, or they just wanted the experience of living away from home, or they had been offered a scholarship and they just wanted to go. But for you to act like every kid who goes to boarding school is a brat, and every parent who sent their kid away to boarding school did that because they don't want to be bothered raising their kid, that's not true. So now Ubah interrupts and she says that she wants to apologize to everybody for being the cause of all the drama with her and Erin. So now Brynn interrupts and she's like, I love you, Ubah, but I have to say, you cannot deliver a message like that because you will lose. So now Ubah's like, look, I don't care. I'm going to be 80 years old, still snatching people's sunglasses. And I said, girl, okay, you clearly can't be told anything. You clearly feel like you're above reproach because, again, sis, you know that you were wrong for what you did. Now, when they all left the restaurant and got back in the cars to head back to the villa, we have some more drama going on because, of course, Brynn is instigating drama between Erin and Jessel. And she's like, by the way, Jessel, Erin talks so much crap about you. She thinks that you're the dum-dum of this group. So now Jessel's really pissed and she's like, excuse me? So now Jessel reads off this whole checklist that she has saved about all the things that Erin has done to her that have pissed her off. Now, Brynn, let me quickly get you together because was that necessary? All the drama that's taking place all day, and now you want to add fuel to the fire and be like, oh, by the way, girl, Erin's been talking all this stuff about you. Like, that was just so wrong. And you obviously want to make things worse because, again, why would you do that? There was no need for that. When they all got back to the villa and Erin called Ubah to sit by the pool and just talk, my nerves were already shot because I said, how many more times can we keep talking about the same thing? So anyhow, Erin calls out for Ubah. She's like, hey, Ubah, can you come outside for a minute? I just want to talk. Ubah sits down. Erin's like, you know I love you, right? But I'm just in shock with how you treated me today. It was just a stupid prank. So Ubah's like, well, you already pranked me back when you threw me in the pool last night. So Erin's like, girl, that wasn't me. Sai was the one who pushed you in the pool. So it was at this moment where I knew that they were about to start fighting yet again. So Ubah's like, but Erin, you have common sense, right? So Erin's like, Ubah, please don't talk to me like that. You're being really condescending. And now, of course, they go back and forth yet again. And it's at this point where Ubah is trying to prove a point. So she's like, wait a second, let me find my phone. So she stops mid-conversation to find her phone. And Erin's like, what the hell is going on? I'm trying to tell her how I feel, and now she has me sitting here while she finds her phone. Now, Ubah, for somebody who made such a big deal about your phone being hidden, you sure do lose your phone a lot. And once again, Ubah left her phone in the car because Brynn went outside to get the phone. She was like, I'm not trying to have any more of these fights. Let me go find this lady's phone. I'm not going to hold you guys. My eyes glazed over during this hot tub scene because I just can't keep talking about the same thing. I can't. Ubah, you were dragging it at this point. It wasn't that deep. I'm sorry, sis, for you to be this mad. I can understand you being annoyed, but it just wasn't this serious for you to still be talking about this. So they're all in the hot tub. Ubah's talking about Erin. She's like, at this point, Erin's running circles around all of us. So of course, the whole thing about Brynn being called a slut gets brought up. Erin's like, I never called you that, Brynn. Then they go to talk about the whole anniversary party stuff, how Brynn was flirting with Abe. And I was like, why are we talking about that? You guys already resolved this. That happened in episode 6. We are in episode 11. Let's let that go. So Erin's like, girl, you and I already resolved this. Why are we rehashing old stuff? So now Brynn's like, but it's not a good look to be accused of flirting with somebody's husband. Now, Brynn, you were flirting with Abe. Like, just own it. You were up there saying, when you divorce her, come get with me, I'm single. Baby, that's called flirting. So don't try to act like you're so innocent now. I was just so over it. I really was. And then when Brynn brought up the fact that Erin called her a social climber behind her back, and she was still upset about that, I just said, Ubah, the way you really ruined this last day, because you got everybody fighting. Now, Erin, I'll bet you'll never confide or vent to Ubah about any one of these ladies again, because you see what happens when you make Ubah mad. So Erin is about to cry. She's like, oh my gosh, I said it. I'm sorry. Let's just move on. I said, again, Miss Erin, I don't have too much sympathy for you in this moment, because the fact that you sat up there and you lied on Jenna and you ambushed her with everybody else a few episodes ago, now you're getting your karma. And now you see it's not that fun. Now is it? Because Ubah had turned everybody against you in that hot tub. So now Sai jumps in and she's like, it feels like an ambush. Why are you guys even fighting again? Can we just have fun? So of course, Ubah's starting up again and Erin gets so pissed that she yells at Ubah. She's like, girl, shut up. And I have to say, it wasn't even fun anymore to watch this scene, because Erin was on the verge of a breakdown. She's like, you're turning everybody against me. Is this what you want? And even Brynn was like, you know what? Let's just stop, because while she might be a liar, she is about to have a meltdown, and I don't want that for her. But in all seriousness, though, I don't think that Erin is cut out to be on The Real Housewives. I think that she's a bit too fragile and a bit too sensitive. And we do see Erin having a breakdown. She's sobbing at this point. And finally, her and Ubah go off to the side to have a real conversation. So Ubah says that she loves Erin. Erin's like, I love you too. Do you think I'd be this broken up if I didn't love you? Like, I've been crying all day about this. So Erin goes on to say that she's upset that Ubah has called her all these names, the fact that she called her a liar and she's turned everybody against her. She's just really upset. So now you have Ubah saying that she loves Erin and how she did not turn anybody against her. And then she's like, look, I take it back. You're not a liar. You're very sensitive, but you do say a lot about people behind their backs. So Erin's like, look, I just state the facts. Jessel is annoying and Brynn is a social climber. And now Ubah finally apologizes for taking the sunglasses off of her face and for holding them for 45 minutes. So now they hug it out. And did anybody catch when Ubah went on to say that she hasn't had sex in a long time? And was that her excuse for her behavior? Girl, I don't care how long it's been. You can't justify getting in somebody's face like that and lashing out. You're a grown-ass woman talking about, oh, I haven't had sex in a while, so girl, forgive my outbursts. Stop it. Now, I was happy to see Ubah and Erin make up, because I cannot go one more episode or one more scene with them still going at it. Now, personally for me, right? If you get in my face and you're calling me all sorts of liars and you take the sunglasses off my face and you hold them for 45 minutes, you have crossed so many boundaries, and I don't think that I would have been able to get over that. So while I would have accepted Ubah's apology, we would not be friends again.
No.
we could be acquaintances or associates at best. But Ubah and Erin, let this be a lesson to stop pranking people. And now we end the episode with the ladies at the villa having dinner, and they all looked really pretty too. I loved Jessel's dress. I loved Brynn's dress. That orange was gorgeous. But yeah, they end up playing a game where they pick out their favorite outfits of the trip, and that's where the episode ends. When I tell you that these last 2 episodes wore me out, baby, Ubah, Erin, Sai, they all had me exhausted. And I know they filmed a reunion a few weeks ago, and I can't wait because I saw that Jessel got the first seed. I said, come through, Jessel. And can we talk about how Jessel and Jenna are the fan favorites? Miss Jessel, I like the fact that she speaks up for herself and she let them have it in the last episode. But y'all, that was my double recap. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all so much for watching, and you already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Bye.